Hello everyone, it's Dana here with Love Sola Flowers, and we have a tutorial tonight. So I will wait for some of you to come on and we will get started. I'm thinking of Valentine's Day, the last obviously couple weeks, especially if you do farmers markets. Obviously you're selling Valentine's Day things, and one of the things that I always sold a lot around Valentine's were these tins. Now, you know, you can get tins in all different kinds of shapes, sizes, and colors and things. I know some people even take these metal tins and put the chalk paint on them and weather them up. But tins are just a good common base and holder for flowers. And I think it's a good idea for Valentine's. And you can do all different colors. It doesn't have to just be pink and red for Valentine's. You can use any colors. I'm using fall colors in my tin today, just because I love the colors and I've got some fillers that will look good with it. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I've done, you know, arrangements in tins and boxes in the past, but I haven't done one lately. And if some of you are new, maybe you haven't scrolled back to see all of those tutorials. So I just wanted to hit on it again, kind of some easy, simple tips on how to get it done fast too. So that's that. We also have a sale going on. It's up to 70% off. That's our website, lovesolaflowers.com. So you can go and check it out there. We have our tutorials saved on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/lovesolaflowers. And we have a community group where you can share all of your things, and that's facebook.com/groups/lovesolaflowers. I love that Pacta Special. Yeah, so I mean, this is just a common thing. A lot of times you can find these at the dollar store or for pretty cheap. I think I bought like bulk on Amazon, but you can find these kind of all over the place. So it's kind of a fun one. Like I said, some people paint it with the chalk paint and then buff out the words to make it a little, you know, if you don't like the galvanized look, but it's nice. So I want to show you what I did first. So this in here is a spray foam. So you can definitely use blocks of dry foam. The thing about it, hi Carla, the thing about the dry foam blocks, well, two things. They're kind of expensive sometimes, and especially if you have like an odd shape, you're kind of cutting a bunch of little pieces to fit it in. But also they slide in and out. So then you try to hot glue it in so that your, you know, arrangement isn't flopping out. And especially if you're going to be shipping these things, you really want something that's good and solid in there. So this spray foam is, you know, not removable. Like even if you wanted to remove it, you can trim it down. If you fill it too far, you definitely can trim it down, but it's not removable, and it's super stiff when it dries. So when you're sticking the stems in, they stay in pretty good. Now this is the spray foam that I used is for the one, it's called Great Stuff, or Loctite, I think is the other brand. Hey Sharon. But you can find them. I get mine at Home Depot. You can find them on Amazon, but it's the insulation foam. And I use the one for windows and doors. So the ones for gaps, don't use the one for large gaps. But if you do use the one for small gaps, it expands a lot. Okay, so if you fill up half your container, sometimes it even overflows. But the windows and doors one, it's the blue can, not the red can, it's the blue can, doesn't expand so much. So it does still expand. You don't want to fill it up to the top, but it doesn't explode like the one that you use for gaps. So that's what's in here right now. It looks like mashed potatoes, but that's what we did. So we're going to get started building. I'm going to always do a same formula I do for all my tins and boxes. And the first thing is to fill it with my leafiest greens first. So I'm just going to go ahead and start randomly placing, I like it random, my thing. Now, here's another tip. Sometimes you want some things hanging over the edge. So especially if your greenery is on a metal wire, obviously if it's preserved, it can't bend as much. But I do like to have it sometimes hanging over a little bit. So if you can get a nice bend on it, have some pieces that are kind of straggling over, I do like that look. So now I'm just, again, randomly placing. Some will bend over, some will stick up. I don't want to cover my words though in the front. I do like a little asymmetrical, so if I'm going to have the droops, I'm going to probably put it on one side. I just don't want to cover my words. So again, I'm just randomly placing it. It doesn't really take any skill at this point. to just fill it up with some of the leafy greens. Again, I always use this formula of doing the leafy greens first, and then we move, as we go along with our flowers, we move towards the fillery fillers. So I'm just gonna add some more greens here. I do have a lot of flowers, so I don't need it too filled with greens. But you know me and greens. I love them in the background at least a little bit. And I'm gonna put those in there. I am gonna be using one of the new fillers tonight from our website. Again, our website is lovesoletheflowers.com. If you're looking for fillers, you can use the drop-down tab and you can choose faux fillers or the preserved and tries, or you can just search all of them in case you don't know kind of what you want to do, or you want to do a combination. So I usually do a combination of both. So I like to cover the foam with moss. Yeah, you definitely can. I got a ton of flowers. I don't really like to waste money on moss because I know that I'm going to be filling it. But if you're concerned about using, you know, not enough flowers or something like that, you certainly can fill it with moss. If you're selling things, you know, you want to keep things as cheap as possible. Maybe you have a good connection to moss. I always find very expensive moss, and I like to just keep my costs down. But I'm going to have a lot of flowers in this one, so I'm not having to worry about that. So now I'm moving on to my greens that are a little bit, I call them like spriggier. So now I'm going to add some spriggier greens here, intermingled. Some in the middle, some on the end. Again, I do like the droopy look, like it's kind of wilting out of your pot. I feel like a lot of the real plants kind of wilt out of your pots, so why not have it with your fake? I do know some people who even paint their foam green so that if you do see something peeking through, just give it a quick spray paint with green and that'll cover it. It won't be white at least too. So there's a few ideas. Okay, so I've got some greens in, and now I'm using our new thistles that we have in our faux filler section. I'm gonna pop those guys in, and then I'll get started with the flowers. So I start with my base of greenery. So basically anything green goes now. And then I do my flowers, and then we fill in with the fun colored fillers at the end. Because what I noticed a lot was when I was putting some of those fun fillers like ahead of time before my flowers, once I got my flowers in, I was covering them up a lot. And then I was like, well, that's a waste of money and all that kind of jazz. I know, right, Lori? It's the best. But yeah, so I try to do my fun or dried and preserved fillers at the end, because then we know they're not getting covered up and you're not wasting the money on that. So I've got these coming. And again, some of these kind of hang over the edge still. But I also, again, I have wording on the edge of this, so I am careful not to cover up my wording. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a decent amount of greenery here. But I also have a bunch of fillers that I'm going to use at the end that are colors. So this is just the green part. So I always start with the greenery. Sometimes there are some shapes, especially if you're trying to do a very round shape, where you could do flowers first. And I do have some tutorials on that. But I like this kind to have some height, and it's kind of easier to do that with this. So I'm just going to pull out some colors that I've got going on here. These are some fallish colors, actually. There we go. So I've got these stemmed on half wires, and then I just trim them depending on what height. But I have found that when I'm creating a project, stemming like slows me down in my creative processing. I don't know why. Look at all the flowers I have. I definitely am not going to need all of these, but I'm just going to take them out anyway. But I just noticed that when I have to stop and stem a flower, like it makes me lose my flow. So what I do a lot now is I stem them on half wires, and then just cut, you know, the little nub off if I need to, depending on the height. So I'm just gonna fill now, obviously paying more attention to my gaps, but I'm gonna do randomly. Now I wanna show you this. So I do have my flower, you know, on the edge a little bit, and some will hang down over a little bit. Some will be up a little bit higher. But the thing I've seen a few, like, you know, when you're just starting, you think, well, how do I fill the rim? And a lot of people will just line the flowers up just to fill the rim, and it goes all the way around. You want them to be different heights. That'll be more natural looking, because obviously a pot of flower plants wouldn't just grow in a line. So that's a tip, is don't just start by lining the edge of the tin or, you know, box or whatever you're filling. So I like to make them in little clusters. So maybe like I think of 3 flowers maybe at a time, and I fill, and that helps me also get some height and some balance. I don't usually cluster colors in projects like this. I usually just cluster like 3 flowers together, but I don't necessarily do all the same. I prefer not to have flowers of the same color. There is a time and a place that maybe you'll want to do that if you want it to look like it's kind of on a bush or something. But in general, I like the colors spread out. Just lost some. What did I lose? I lost my white ones down there. I'll get them in a minute. So now I'm just going to be kind of filling around. I want to make sure that I've got some height and depth here on this so it doesn't look flat. And I want some flowers to be able to kind of shoot up out. So I don't want to make all of them short. I'm dropping these like... Okay, so again, I like to do asymmetrical building, but that's just a personal preference. I definitely want to make sure that I'm layering so that I can get that height in. I'm going to spin it around so you can see it your direction as well. So... I'm going to put one more in here, and then I'll flip it around. Okay. So again, I'm wanting to avoid a flat top here. So I want to make sure that I've got some. And the best way, you don't want to have flowers just hanging out up high with their wire just sticking out, because obviously these are faux flowers, so we've got things like wires that we need to be conscious of. So my best tip, I guess, is to make sure you're layering them so that the tops of one flower is kind of covering the stem of the one above it. That way you don't have any just kind of chilling out high on a flower. Now I dropped my white ones. Let me grab those because I do want some raw here. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. And I just want to keep covering. You don't have to have like flowers every single spot. You can make it fuller, you know, in one area than the other area, because you've got your greens kind of supporting stuff back there too. Let's see what color. But I am trying to get a nice little distribution of color. Let me get a longer one. A lot of these don't even need their wires trimmed, just kind of the ones at the bases do. Again, the nice thing about this foam is it really holds the flowers in there. So that's nice. All right. I love, if you're new and you haven't used flowers that have our thistles in the center, these are the closed eclipse dyed. When you dye them, for some reason, the dye doesn't really stick on the thistle, so you can actually just dip dye it like you would any other, but it looks so realistic with that thistle in the center. So I'm just going to keep filling, and then we're going to come in with our final spruce it up fillers. So I'm going to take out one of these greens here and get it in my center here. Alrighty. Again, making sure I've got some height. There's nothing like a flat box. You know, it looks silly. Some of these greens out the sides, you know, now that I'm building, I might need to pull a little bit in. The white flowers are you mean the raw ones or the thistles that are on the website? I believe the raw flowers, if that's what you're asking, I believe are Whisper. So, yes. The white thistle, that's one of our new, and I just had it on the tip of my tongue, meadow thistle, I think is what we're calling it on the website. But yes, the raw flowers are Whisper. Yeah, they're nice. If you haven't seen our flowers lately, too, we're phasing out our Fifth Avenue collection, but we left the names of a lot of the flowers the same so that you could find them, because we're not carrying the Fifth Avenue anymore because they were more expensive and they were harder for us to get from a vendor. So we decided to make the same styles, but in the prices that everybody loves. So check those out if you haven't. Our new flowers that have replaced the Fifth Avenue. Again, they're the same names so that you can find it. Like there's still a Snow White, but it's the non-Fifth Avenue version, which is really nice because, again, you get the benefit of the style. And those are kind of flowers that, like, I could never use when I was doing weddings because, you know, if you use a lot of them, you have to charge your brides more, and they don't always want to pay more. So they were a nice change of, you know, the price change, but the styles are pretty similar. You know, a few of them look a little bit different, but we've got them as close as possible to what they were. They're not like exact replicas, but, well, some of them look exact replicas, but they're not meant to be exact replicas. They use them as, we use the original as an inspiration, and then we're able to do them, though, at a more cost-efficient thing. And for, obviously, if you have a business, that's super meaningful, you know, when you can save some money on styles of flowers and stuff. If you do have a business and you aren't signed up for our wholesale program, you should definitely do that. And the benefits of that too is that no matter what kind of sale is going on, or if there's not a sale, you always get the lowest price. Yeah, Lori, the new website's really great. If you haven't checked out our new website, we try to make it easier to navigate and prettier to look at. Let me show you this. Yeah, we just, we constantly listen to your suggestions of, you know, how do you find something? I know one of the big things on our websites that changed was it tells you how much each item is, percent off wise. Our old website wasn't able to do that, but now you can look and say, oh, that one's 60% off. Oh, that one's 70% off. So that helps with the math sometimes, because I know a lot of people always ask, well, which is the 70? Which is the 50? What is the, and you know, sometimes it's just different sizes that are on sale a little bit more than others. So that was one big change, as well as just the pretty softer colors to look at. I'm just adding now my specialty fillers, packing it in here. I'm not sure. I have this brighter red in here, but I'm not really feeling it. I feel like under this light, maybe I'm just going crazy. But sometimes this happens where you're like, you know what? I put that in there. Thought I was going to love it, but I don't. So it's okay to make changes, especially now we have dyed assortments. So if you haven't checked out our dyed assortments, that's another thing to check out, because everybody loves to have projects be easier. And when someone dyes your flowers for you, trust me, it's easier. I pay people to dye my flowers for me all the time for weddings and things. And I have to tell you, it's a lifesaver, especially when you're in a rush and you're busy. But just to have them on hand, you know, Valentine's, you get a last minute order instead of having to run and go dye something, you know, it's ready to go. The thistle, well, I just have eucalyptus in there and some other random junk I had around my office too. But the one that I wanted to use and highlight was the new thistle that we carry on our site. So yeah, I didn't necessarily, sometimes I find scraps, and that is also the best way. Never throw away your scraps of old greenery of things that you've used. Or, you know, sometimes I've actually taken apart things that I've bought and I'm like, oh, this is greenery that I could use, you know, in my projects. And so sometimes it's not even greeneries that I buy. So here's what I've got so far. Like I said, I didn't like those brighter red. It kind of meant a little too far on the colors. But I did have some pops of this brighter orange, which I'm happy with. So now I'm going to add my colored greens, and I've got some preserved baby's breath in a rusty kind of color. We do have different types of baby's breaths online. I'm just breaking up some pieces off here. This actually was sitting next to my lavender, and it's got like a strong lavender smell. Woo! So whoever's getting this is going to have a scented lavender. They're going to be looking in the thing for lavender. It's not going to be there, but all right. So now I'm going to add some of this baby's breath into my, and I'm just going to let this peek out. Again, I do it very randomly. I don't try to go, okay, now I did it on this side. Now I got to make sure I do it on this side. I'm not a very symmetrical builder. I like more of a mishmashed look. Now, again, we've talked about this before. Asymmetry does not mean that there's no balance, okay? So you want things balanced. You don't want, like, if you're going to have, let's say, one type of greenery on one side, it has to look like you for sure meant it, not just like, oops, you forgot to add it to the other side. So if you're going to go with an asymmetrical look, make sure you're using the asymmetrical heights and stuff too. Now, balance just means that you've evenly distributed it, but not necessarily, you know, in the exact same spots on all sides. Because we want to remain balanced, even if we're not symmetrical. You don't want yellows to be all on, you know, the left side or the, you know, front side, and then have no yellows for the back, something like that. So just keep that in mind as you're building. Because sometimes if we're not paying attention, sometimes even though we're like trying to build not randomly, it like turns out random, or vice versa. Have you ever tried to say, okay, I'm going to do this project and I'm not going to be symmetrical and I'm not going to have a pattern, and then by not having a pattern you like build a pattern? That happens to me all the time. I remember I did that with like my flooring once or something. I was like, okay, so I'm not going to go like every other, so I have to pick a different random thing, and then I ended up building a pattern. All right, so now we've added that, and we have a few more things to add. I'm gonna do some Starflower filler. I'm gonna use the natural because we've got a lot of colors going on. So let me just grab that. And I'm just going to do bundles. With the star flower, you just grab a bundle. And then like this, if you grab a bundle. And then you put glue, and then you slide it in the space that you're wanting it in. Okay, so again, if you're just joining us, we use the formula of filling our container with greens after we did the foam. And then we do leafy greens, then we do spriggy greens, and all of the greens first, anything that's green. And then we move on to our flowers. And with our flowers, we kind of make sure we're not totally color blocking. We're staggering the heights, all that kind of good fun. Then our last step is coming in with the fun fillers, which is our colored fillers, you know, our little baby flowers or baby's breath, the thistles and things like that. Now we get to put the fun part on, but usually the fun part, you know, lavender, things like that. Usually the fun part are kind of the more expensive of the fillers. And that's, again, one of the reasons we do them last is so that they're very visible and they don't get covered up in the process, because obviously we don't want these kind of beautiful fun fillers to, you know, get covered up. So, all right, I got a few more bundles of this Starflower filler, which is actually one of my favorite all-time fillers. I love a Starflower filler because, you know, you can't get solar flowers in itsy bitsy bitsy tiny, so it kind of just accents it and makes it so you have, you know, the ability to use these little mini baby flowers. So that's a nice look. Okay, I think I got enough for one more bundle. Made a big mess in my office here. It's okay. Okay, so now I added my Starflower filler. And I'm gonna do, my last one I'm gonna do is some Phalaris that we sell as well. And I'm gonna break off some pieces. I'm gonna do kind of the same thing. I'm gonna make little bundles of like 2 or 3, something like a Phalaris or even just a thistle or something that's like thin, not like a big globy thistle, but you're not wanting just to put one guy everywhere. You're gonna wanna either bundle them of 2 or bundle them of 3. Okay, a little bundle so it looks like it's coming off the same stem, looks like it's kind of growing naturally. Usually doing things in sets of 3 is a natural look. So I'm going to add these little pops of this brighter orange Phalaris. And then I'm going to be done. And it doesn't take too long to make, you know, a tin or a box, especially when you've got that greenery in there first. So again, I'm just bundling in 3s. You can even do some 3s and some 2s. Again, kind of the more mishmashed, the more natural things actually look. Because in nature, things grow haphazardly. So these bring a nice bright color to it. Okay. Obviously, I'm not afraid to use color in both my flowers and my fillers. If you don't experiment with colors, if you're nervous to do so, you know, the best thing that I always say is find some arrangements that you like online and then see what colors, you know, your eye goes towards. And that might help you play around a little bit more. I know that my eyes like yellows and oranges and then with pops of blue. I like a high contrast, but some people's eyes go to very neutrals. Some go to very complementary colors in terms of you know, in the same tones. But I like high contrast. It just is where my eye likes to go to. But everybody's got their own styles. And that's the great part of this, is that no matter how many of us make something, they never look like each other's. There's a place for everybody to make stuff and create. And I love that. I love seeing, you know, I make one thing, you know, when I remembered when I started the candle toppers, I did a tutorial on candle toppers at Christmas one year, and they went crazy. Everybody was making them. I dropped my flowers. Everybody was making them like crazy, the candle toppers, after I did my tutorial. And I thought, you know what? Like, even though everybody's making them, they all look so different that it's just a reminder that we could all be making the same thing and look nothing alike. So don't feel bad if somebody, you know, I know that this happens sometimes, but someone sees something you make and you give them the idea, you know? And I mean, I had to think about that when I was doing tutorials and starter tutorials. Like, am I giving all these people ideas? And then, like, what do I have left, you know? That's just me and that's special. But the reality is, what's special is that I have my own style. And that's what makes my stuff special. And it's what makes your stuff special, that we could be making the same thing and they're both special. So don't let it discourage you if you come up with an idea and you put it out on your business page or your Instagram and someone copies it, because it should be just a form of flattery that everyone liked your idea. And, you know, just keep building your own style. I'm not usually like a competitive person or anything like that. That's why these tutorials, I love to teach people, even though I'm a florist myself, you know, it doesn't make me nervous to teach all my hidden secrets. But. Alrighty. Let's see. All right, I think I'm done. All right. Oh, I got droopy things here. I got glue, blobs, and sticks, and now I gotta get rid of all the glue blobs. As you can see, we have really filled this guy up. Again, we started with our greenery, moved on to our flowers, and then went with our fun fillers. And that's about it. Super simple. And then again, you can sell these guys for Valentine's Day. Do some multiple colors. You don't need to do just the red and pink for Valentine's Day. Don't let anyone trick you, because a lot of men, especially because they're wood flowers, want to buy something that, you know, can fit in their house. So, you know, a lot of people have different kind of colors in their house, blues and grays and all that kind of stuff too. So don't be afraid to promote Valentine's Day items that aren't red and pink. Because you have a bunch of people who love a bunch of colors, and then you'll do that. So again, I like mine kind of spriggy down the side, and we got that. The colors are a little more muted in real life. The lights shining off of them makes them look super bright, but I am not afraid of colors, so I still went with the bright. But that's it. So remember, we have a sale on our website. It is lovesoloflowers.com, and it's up to 70% off, and that's about it. We'll see you next. Oh, no problem. I'm sorry. Yeah, I love these too. Yes, we'll see you next time. And we'll probably do another Valentine's Day thing, but maybe something a little more that looks Valentine's-y. So, all right, everyone, have a fabulous night and the rest of a good weekend.